Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into an even humbler life. We're exploring the daily existence of a medieval peasant. Not kings or knights. Not nobles or merchants. Just peasants. The vast majority of medieval people. The ones who worked the land, barely survived, and left almost no record of their existence. We'll move through a single day in exhausting detail. From waking before dawn in a cramped, smoky hut to collapsing back into bed after dark. Every meal, such as they were, every task, every moment of a life that was hard, short, and repetitive beyond modern comprehension. So before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 1250. You are a peasant. A serf, technically. It's around the year 1250, somewhere in rural England. You don't know the exact year. Years don't matter much to you. Time is measured differently, in seasons, in harvests, in the cycle of planting and reaping. You're waking up. It's still dark. Completely dark. No electricity, obviously. No street lights. No phone screen glowing. Just pure darkness inside your hut. You can't see anything at all. The hut is tiny. One room, maybe 15 feet by 12 feet. The walls are wattle and daub, woven sticks covered with a mixture of mud, straw, dung, and whatever else was available. The roof is thatch. Straw and reeds bundled together and laid over a wooden frame. It leaks when it rains. It sags in the middle. Mice live in it. Sometimes birds. The floor is dirt, hacked earth, slightly uneven, always slightly damp. There's no wooden floor. No tiles. No carpet. Just dirt. The same dirt you walk on outside, just inside your house. You're lying on what passes for a bed. It's a wooden platform, very low to the ground, with a mattress stuffed with straw. The straw is old and compressed, and pokes through the rough fabric. You share this bed with your wife and your 2 children. And sometimes, in winter, the boat sleeps inside too, near the small fire pit, for warmth. You're cold. It's always cold at night, except in the very depths of summer. You're covered with a blanket made from rough wool, undyed, scratchy thin. It doesn't keep you very warm. Your wife is pressed against your back, stealing your body heat. Your children are curled up on the other side of her. Everyone sleeps in their clothes. You don't have pajamas. You sleep in the same tunic you wore all day, the same you'll wear tomorrow. The air inside the hut is thick and smoky. There's a fire pit in the center of the room, just a circle of stones on the dirt floor. Last night's fire has burned down to embers, barely glowing. The smoke is supposed to go out through a hole in the roof, but most of it just hangs in the air, making everything hazy and your eyes sting. The smell is difficult to describe if you're used to modern life. It's a combination of smoked, unwashed bodies, damp straw, the goat old food scraps, and the chamber pot in the corner. You're used to it. You've never known anything else. But if a modern person walked into your hut, they'd probably gag. Something wakes you. Not an alarm clock. Those don't exist. Not even a rooster. You don't own a rooster. The village has roosters and you can hear one crowing in the distance. That's probably what woke you. Or maybe it's just habit. When you go to sleep at sunset every day and wake at dawn, your body develops a rhythm. You lie there for a moment, not wanting to get up. Your body hurts. Your back aches from years of bending over in fields. Your hands are rough and cracked. Your joints are stiff. You're maybe 30 years old, but you feel ancient. Peasant life ages you quickly. But you can't stay in bed. There's work to do. There's always work to do. You push yourself up. Your wife stirs but doesn't wake. The children don't move, they're deeply asleep as children are. You need to use the chamber pot. It's a clay pot in the corner, partially full already. The whole family uses it. It will be emptied later, thrown onto the midden heap behind the hut. Everything goes on the midden heap: human waste, food scraps, old straw, ashes from the fire. It's a festering pile of garbage that attracts flies and smells terrible, but it's also valuable. Eventually, that rotted mess becomes fertilizer for your small garden plot. You relieve yourself in the pot, in the darkness, feeling your way. Then you stand and shuffle toward the door. The door is just wooden planks held together with leather straps and hung on leather hinges. It doesn't lock. There's nothing to steal anyway. You push it open. The cold morning air hits you like a shock. It's late autumn, and the temperature has dropped overnight. Your breath makes clouds. You step outside, barefoot, onto cold, damp earth. Dew has settled on everything. The grass is wet. The sky is starting to lighten in the east. Not sunrise yet, but the deep black is becoming dark blue. You can make out shapes now. Other huts in the village, the outline of trees, the church tower in the distance. The village is still mostly quiet. A few other peasants are emerging from their huts, starting their days. You can hear a baby crying somewhere. A dog barks. Smoke is beginning to rise from other huts as people stop their fires. You walk a short distance from your hut to urinate against a tree. Then you stand there for a moment, looking at the village, at the fields beyond, at the forest in the distance. This is your entire world. This village, these fields. You were born here. You'll die here. You've never traveled more than 10 miles from this spot in your entire life. The village is small. Maybe 20 families. About 100 people total. Everyone knows everyone. You're related to half of them by blood or marriage. Privacy doesn't really exist. Everyone knows everyone else's business. The huts all look similar to yours: small, low, thatched roofs, wattle and daub walls. They're clustered together, with small garden plots between them. Beyond the village, you can see the fields. Strip fields, long and narrow, divided among the villagers. Your family has several strips scattered throughout the fields. Not next to each other, unfortunately. You have to walk from one strip to another during planting and harvest. And beyond the fields, in the distance, you can see the manor house. It's much larger than the village huts. Stone, not wattle and daub. 2 stories. Windows with actual shutters. That's where the Lord lives. The man who owns this village, these fields, and technically owns you. You're his serf, bound to this land. You can't leave without his permission. Your children are born into the same bondage. The Lord isn't cruel, exactly. He's just the Lord. He takes a large portion of your harvest as rent. He requires you to work his personal fields several days a week. He charges fees for using the mill and the oven. He has the right to judge disputes and impose fines. But he also provides some protection. If raiders come, you can flee to the manor. Not that raiders come often. Mostly, life is just grinding. Repetitive. Hard. You return to the hut. Inside, your wife is awake now, stirring up the fire. She's added some sticks and straw to the embers, blowing on them gently. Small flames begin to lick up. The fire is essential. It's how you cook. It's your only heat. It's your only light after dark. Your wife is young, younger than you. Maybe 25. She looks older. Hard labor and childbearing have aged her. She's already had 4 children. 2 survived. 2 died as infants. This was normal. Expected. Half of children don't survive to adulthood. You grieved, but not the way modern parents would grieve. Death was too common to be devastating. You mourned and moved on because you had to. She doesn't speak. Neither do you. There's nothing to say. This is just another day, the same as yesterday, and the day before and every day. She knows what needs to be done. You know what needs to be done. You both just do it. She's preparing breakfast. Not a complicated meal. There's no refrigerator. No pantry full of options. Breakfast is the same thing it always is, a thin porridge made from oats or barley, cooked with water. Maybe a small piece of yesterday's bread if there's any left. That's it. The children are waking up now. Your son is 7. Your daughter is 5. They're thin, like all peasant children. Not starving, but never quite full either. They have the distended bellies that come from a diet low in protein and high in grain. Their faces are dirty. Their clothes are too small. They've grown, but new clothes are expensive and rare. Your son will start working in the fields soon, if he hasn't already. Children start working young. By age 6 or 7, they're useful. They can scare birds away from newly planted seeds. They can pull weeds. They can carry water. By 10 or 12, they're doing adult labor. There's no childhood in the modern sense. You grow up fast, or you don't grow up at all. Your daughter will help her mother with household tasks, spinning wool, tending the garden, preparing food, hauling water. She'll marry young, probably at 14 or 15. She'll start having children immediately. And the cycle will continue. The porridge is ready. Your wife ladles it into wooden bowls. 4 bowls. 1 for each of you. The bowls are rough, hand-carved. There are no spoons. You eat with your fingers, or you drink the porridge directly from the bowl. It's hot and tasteless. No salt. Salt is expensive. No sugar. Sugar doesn't exist in England yet. No butter or milk to make it richer. Just oats and water. But it's warm, and it fills your stomach, and you're grateful for it. Some days there isn't even this much. You eat quickly. The day is wasting. The sun is rising now, light spreading across the sky. Other villagers are out and about. You can hear voices, the sound of animals, the clang of someone's axe as they chop wood. Time to work. You step outside, and the village is coming alive. Smoke rises from every hut. Children run between houses. A woman is walking toward the well, carrying a wooden bucket. An old man sits outside his hut, too frail to work the fields anymore, watching the activity with dim eyes. The well is at the center of the village. It's just a deep hole lined with stones, with a wooden frame and a bucket on a rope. The water is cold and not particularly clean. Sometimes it tastes of earth. Sometimes things fall into it, leaves, dead insects, once a dead rat that made everyone sick. But it's the only source of water, so you drink it anyway. You don't need to fetch water this morning. Your wife did that yesterday, filling the clay jug near the door. But you'll need to fetch it later. Everything requires water. Cooking, washing, drinking. And a well is communal, so there's always a wait. You walk toward the fields. Your tools are minimal. You have a hoe, a wooden handle with an iron blade worn and chipped from use. You have a sickle for harvesting grain, a spade for digging. These tools are precious. Iron is expensive. If a tool breaks, you might not be able to replace it. You care for your tools the way a modern person might care for a car. The fields stretch out before you. It's late autumn, and most of the harvest is already in. The wheat and barley were cut weeks ago, threshed and stored. But there's still work to do. Always work to do. Today, you're plowing. Preparing the field for winter. The Lord's steward told you yesterday that your labor service this week is 3 days of plowing. So that's what you'll do. You don't own a plow. Very few peasants do. Plows are expensive, and they require a team of oxen to pull them. The Lord has plows and oxen. The village shares them. You'll use the Lord's plow, pulled by the Lord's oxen, and in exchange, you'll plow the Lord's fields as well as your own. The plow is already in the field. It's a heavy wooden thing with an iron blade. Not sophisticated. It doesn't turn the soil over like a modern plow. It just scratches a furrow in the earth. You'll have to go over the same ground multiple times to break up the soil adequately. Another peasant is there already, your neighbor Robert. He's older than you, maybe 40. His face is weathered and lined. He's lost most of his teeth. He nods at you but doesn't speak. You work together in silence, attaching the oxen to the plow. The oxen are large, patient animals. Slow. They've been doing this for years. They know the routine better than you do. You guide them, walking alongside, while Robert holds the plow handles, keeping the blade in the earth. The work is slow and monotonous. Walk the length of the field. Stop. Turn the oxen. Walk back. Stop. Turn again. Over and over. The furrow behind you is shallow and uneven. The oxen plod along, their breath making steam in the cold air. Your feet get muddy. Your hands go numb with cold. Hours pass. The sun rises higher. It's still cold, but the physical exertion keeps you warm. Your back begins to ache from the walking, the bending, the constant tension of guiding the oxen. You don't complain. Complaining changes nothing. Around mid-morning, you take a break. Robert has brought a flask of ale. Weak ale, barely alcoholic, but safer to drink than water. You share it, passing the flask back and forth. You also share a small piece of bread from your pouch. It's dry and hard, made from rye flour. Dark brown, coarse, full of grit because the millstone sheds particles of stone when grinding the grain. Eating this bread every day wears down your teeth. By your age, everyone has tooth problems. By 40, most people have lost several teeth. Dentistry doesn't really exist. You sit on the cold ground for a few minutes, chewing the hard bread, drinking the ale. Robert mentions that his wife is pregnant again. You nod. What else is there to say? Children come. Some live. Some don't. Life continues. The break ends. Back to work. More plowing. The sun continues its arc across the sky. Your stomach growls with hunger. The thin porridge you had for breakfast is long gone. But there won't be a proper meal until evening. You're used to being hungry. Everyone is always slightly hungry. Food is scarce. Feasts happen a few times a year, Christmas, Easter, harvest time, but most days, you just have enough to keep working, not enough to feel full. Other peasants are working in other parts of the field. You can see them in the distance, small figures bent over their tasks. Plowing. Digging. Spreading manure from the midden heaps. Repairing fences. The work never ends. As soon as harvest finishes, you're preparing for the next planting. As soon as winter ends, spring planting begins. Then weeding. Then harvest. Then plowing again. The same cycle, year after year, generation after generation. A light rain begins to fall. Not heavy, just a drizzle. You keep working. Rain doesn't stop work unless it's a downpour. You're wet, cold, miserable. But the field needs plowing, so you plow. By midday, your section is finished. The field behind you is covered in uneven furrows. It's not pretty, but it will do. Seeds will be scattered in these furrows in the spring. They'll grow, God willing, and produce a harvest. And that harvest will keep you and your family alive for another year. Unless it doesn't. Unless the weather turns bad. Unless blight strikes. Unless something goes wrong. Then you'll starve. You unharness the oxen and lead them back to the manor. The steward makes a note on a parchment. You've completed your labor service for today. Tomorrow you'll be back, plowing another section. The day after that, the same. This is the rhythm of peasant life. Labor for the Lord. Labor for yourself. Rest on Sundays, sort of. Then start again. You walk back toward the village. It's midday now, but you're not done. There's still your own work to do. Work on your own strips of land. Work on your house. Work that benefits your family rather than the Lord. But first, a brief stop at home. When you arrive home, your wife has prepared a midday meal. Calling it a meal is generous. It's more like a small amount of food eaten at the midpoint of the day. Today it's bread and onions. The bread is the same dark, coarse rye bread you had this morning. The onions are from your garden plot. They're small, slightly withered, but they're food. Your wife has also made a thin soup, mostly water, with some cabbage leaves and a few beans floating in it. There's no meat. Meat is rare. Peasants eat meat maybe a few times a month, if that. Usually at festivals or if an animal dies unexpectedly. You sit on the floor. There's no furniture except for the bed platform and a rough wooden chest where you keep your few possessions. You eat with your family, dipping bread into the soup, chewing the onions. The children eat hungrily. They're always hungry. The meal doesn't last long. Maybe 10 minutes. Then you're up again. There's work to do. Your wife returns to her tasks. She's been working all morning while you were in the fields. She's been tending the garden, spinning wool, watching the children. Spinning wool is an endless task. Almost every moment when she's not doing something else, she's spinning. She uses a drop spindle, a simple wooden stick with a weight at the bottom. She pulls wool fibers, twists them, lets the spindle drop and spin, creating thread. Hour after hour. Day after day. Year after year. This thread will eventually be woven into cloth, which will eventually be sewn into clothes. Everything is made by hand. Everything takes forever. You head to your garden plot. This is a small piece of land next to your hut, maybe 30 feet by 20 feet. It's yours to use, though technically the Lord owns it. Here you grow vegetables that supplement the grain from the fields. Onions, cabbages, beans, peas, turnips. Lots of turnips. Turnips grow well, store well, and keep you from starving in winter. The garden needs work. Weeds have grown up around the cabbages. You kneel on the cold, wet earth and begin pulling them. One weed at a time. Handful by handful. Your hands are already rough and cracked, but the work makes them worse. Dirt gets under your fingernails. Your knees ache from kneeling. You spend an hour weeding. Then you need to repair part of the fence around the garden. It's just a low barrier made from woven sticks, but the neighbor's pig got in last week and rooted around, damaging some plants. You cut some willow branches from near the stream and weave them into the gaps in the fence. It's tedious work, but necessary. The afternoon wears on. The sun is past its peak now, starting its descent toward the western horizon. The temperature is dropping again. Your stomach is empty again. The small midday meal is gone, burned up by hours of physical labor. You have chickens. 3 of them. Scrawny things that peck around the yard, eating insects and scraps. They're supposed to lay eggs, and sometimes they do. Not every day. Peasant chickens don't lay like modern ones. Maybe you get 3 or 4 eggs a week from all 3 chickens combined. When you get an egg, it's a small treasure. Usually, your wife trades them at the market for something else the family needs. Or you eat them, cooked in the fire, a rare taste of something rich and nourishing. You check the chickens now. One has laid an egg. You pick it up carefully. The shell is thin and fragile. You bring it inside to your wife. She looks pleased. An egg. This might be traded for some salt at the market tomorrow. Or maybe she'll cook it for the children. They need the nourishment more than you do. There's also the matter of firewood. Your supply is running low, and winter is coming. You need to gather more. So you take an axe, old dull, the handle worn smooth from use, and walk toward the forest. The forest is common land. In theory it belongs to the Lord, but peasants are allowed to gather deadwood. Not to cut living trees, that's forbidden, heavily fined if you're caught. But dead branches, fallen timber, those are fair game. You walk into the forest. It's darker here, quieter. The trees are old and thick. Oak, ash, beech. Their branches overhead block much of the sky. The forest floor is covered in fallen leaves, damp and rotting. Mushrooms grow on fallen logs. Some are edible. Some are poisonous. You know which are which. You've been foraging since childhood. But it's the wrong season for mushrooms now. You find a dead branch, partially fallen from a tree. You hack at it with your axe. The blade is dull, so it takes many blows. Eventually, the branch breaks free. You drag it back toward the village, then return for more. Back and forth, branch by branch. By the time you have a decent pile of firewood near your hut, 2 hours have passed. Your back is screaming with pain. Your hands are blistered. You're exhausted. But there's still more to do. The village has a communal oven. The Lord owns it, and you have to pay a fee to use it, usually a portion of whatever you're baking. Your wife has been preparing dough throughout the day, mixing flour with water and a bit of the sourdough starter she keeps in a covered pot. The dough has risen, and now it needs baking. You help her carry the dough to the oven. Other women are there too, waiting their turn. The oven is a large stone structure with a domed roof. A fire has been burning inside it all day, heating the stones. The bread goes directly onto the hot stones to bake. Your wife shapes the dough into round loaves and places them inside. Then you wait. The bread will take an hour to bake. You sit outside the oven with other villagers, resting. No one talks much. Everyone is tired. Conversation requires energy, and energy is in short supply. A woman mentions that her husband is sick. A fever. He's been in bed for 3 days. Can't work. Can't eat. The village priest visited, said prayers, but prayers don't cure fever. She's worried. If he dies, how will she manage the fields? How will she survive? She has children to feed. You sympathize, but say nothing. What can you say? Illness is common. Death is common. You hope her husband recovers, but you've seen plenty of people die from fevers. There's nothing to be done except wait and hope. The bread finishes baking. Your wife retrieves the loaves. They're hot, dark brown, crusty. The smell is wonderful, but you don't eat them now. This bread will feed the family for the next few days. You'll eat some tonight, but most will be saved. You walk back to your hut. The sun is low now, touching the horizon. The sky is turning orange and pink. Evening is coming. Your wife prepares the evening meal. This is the main meal of the day. Not large, but more substantial than what you had at midday. Tonight, there's the fresh bread. There's also a pottage, a thick stew that's been simmering over the fire most of the day. Pottage is the staple of peasant diet. Every family eats it almost every day. It's made from whatever is available: beans, peas, onions, cabbage, turnips, sometimes a bit of salted pork if you're lucky. Today there's no pork, just vegetables and beans and water, thickened with barley. It's flavored with herbs from the garden, parsley, thyme. No salt. Salt is too expensive for daily use. Your family sits on the floor around the fire. You eat from wooden bowls, using your fingers and pieces of bread to scoop up the pottage. It's hot and filling. Your stomach, empty and aching for hours, finally begins to feel satisfied. The children eat quickly, hungrily. Your son asks for more. Your wife gives him a little more, but she's careful. The food has to last. If you run out before the next harvest, you'll starve. It's a constant calculation. How much can we eat today without jeopardizing tomorrow? After the meal, there's a little time before sleep. Not much. You're exhausted. But there are small tasks that still need doing. Your wife cleans the bowls, scraping them out and wiping them with a rag. Water is too precious to waste on washing dishes thoroughly. She'll rinse them properly tomorrow at the well. You sit by the fire, trying to warm yourself. The hot is cold, despite the fire. The walls let in drafts. The door doesn't fit quite right. Heat escapes as fast as the fire produces it. Your son is playing with a small toy, just a stick carved to look vaguely like a horse. Your daughter is already falling asleep, curled up near her mother. Children go to bed early, especially in winter when daylight is short and there's nothing to do after dark. The village outside is quiet. Other families are doing the same things, eating their evening meals, tending their fires, preparing for sleep. Occasionally, you hear voices. A dog barking. The distant sound of the church bell ringing for Vespers, the evening prayer service. You don't attend church every evening. The priest says you should, but realistically, peasants are too tired. You go on Sundays always. The Lord requires it. Missing Sunday Mass is a sin and also a finnable offense. But weeknight services, those are for monks and the very devout. The fire burns low. Your wife adds another log. Fire is life in a medieval peasant hut. It cooks your food, provides your only heat, gives your only light. Keeping it going is a constant concern. If it goes out completely, you have to walk to a neighbor to get an ember to restart it. Flint and steel exist, but they're difficult to use, and not every family has them. As darkness falls completely, the only light is the firelight. It flickers across the walls, casting dancing shadows. The smoke makes your eyes water. But it's familiar, comforting, in a way. This is home. Smoky, cold, cramped, uncomfortable home. You think about tomorrow. It will be the same as today. Work in the Lord's fields. Work in your own garden. Chop wood. Haul water. The same endless cycle of labor. And the day after tomorrow? The same. And the day after that? But there's a rhythm to it. A predictability. You know what needs to be done. You do it. You survive. And that's enough. Your wife is nursing the baby. Did I mention there's a baby? There is. Your youngest. 10 months old. Another mouth to feed. You pray this one survives. 2 out of 4 have so far. Those are decent odds for peasant children. The baby finishes nursing and falls asleep at his mother's breast. She transfers him carefully to the bed, tucking him into the straw mattress. Your daughter is already asleep. Your son is fighting it, his eyes drooping but resisting. You're so tired you can barely move. Your body aches in 100 places. Your hands are raw. Your back is a constant throb of pain. You're 30 years old and you feel 70. But you'll wake up tomorrow and do it all again. Because that's what you do. That's what peasants have always done. You work. You survive. And if you're lucky, your children survive. And they'll do the same. And their children after them. This is life. This is the world. You've never known anything else, never imagined anything else could exist. The idea that humans might one day live in houses with glass windows and wooden floors, with unlimited food, with machines to do the work, with heated rooms and soft beds, such ideas would be literally incomprehensible to you. Magic. Fantasy. Impossible. You lie down on the bed. Your wife lies beside you. The children are already asleep. The fire burns low, casting faint red light. Outside, the village is silent except for the occasional sound of a restless animal. You close your eyes. Sleep comes quickly when you're this exhausted. And for a few hours you'll rest. Until dawn comes and the rooster crows and another day begins. The same day. Always the same day. Days pass. Weeks pass. The seasons turn, and with them, the rhythm of peasant life changes, but only slightly. The core remains the same: work, eat, sleep, work again. Winter arrives. The fields lie fallow, covered in frost and sometimes snow. You can't plow frozen ground. You can't plant in winter. But there's still work. Always work. Wood gathering becomes crucial. You spend hours in the forest, collecting deadwood, bundling it, dragging it back. The pile of firewood outside your hut grows, but never large enough. You're always worried it won't be enough to last until spring. Your hut is miserably cold in winter. The fire helps, but it can only do so much. The walls are thin. The roof leaks. Cold air seeps in through every crack. You wear every piece of clothing you own. Your tunic, a second tunic over it, a rough cloak made from wool. Your wife wraps cloths around the children to keep them warm. At night, the whole family huddles together under the thin blanket, plus old cloaks, plus anything else that might provide warmth. Food becomes scarce in winter. The harvest is months behind you. The stored grain is being consumed. You try to ration it, make it last, but it's hard when everyone is always hungry. Your wife makes the porridge thinner, stretching the grain as far as possible. The pottage becomes more water, less vegetables. You eat the turnips from the cellar, not stored in a proper cellar, just a hole dug beneath the hut, covered with boards. The turnips are getting soft and sprouting, but they're food. Winter illnesses strike. Your daughter develops a cough that won't go away. It's a wet, rattling cough that keeps her up at night. Your wife makes a tea from herbs, horehound thyme, but it doesn't help much. You worry. Coughs kill children. Especially in winter. Especially when they're already weak from poor nutrition. But she survives. The cough eventually fades. Not everyone is so lucky. A child in another family dies. Then an old woman. Then a young man who seemed healthy until he suddenly wasn't. Winter is the dying time. The cold, the hunger, the sickness, it all takes its toll. Church becomes more important in winter. Not because you're more devout, but because the church building is slightly warmer than your hut, and services offer a break from the monotony. You sit on the cold stone floor, there are no pews, and listen to the priest drone on in Latin, which you don't understand. But it doesn't matter. You're not there for understanding. You're there because it's required, and because it's something to do, and because the priest says it will save your soul. The priest talks about sin, about the importance of obedience to God and to the Lord, about how suffering in this life will be rewarded in the next. You're not sure you believe it, but you nod along. What choice do you have? Christmas comes. This is the one bright spot in winter. The Lord provides a feast for the village. There's actual meat, roasted pork, maybe some beef. There's white bread instead of the usual dark rye. There's ale, stronger than what you'd drink normally. The village gathers in the manor's great hall, and for one day, you eat until you're full. Really full. It's a strange, almost uncomfortable feeling. There's music too. Someone plays a pipe. People sing. The children laugh and run around, their bellies full for once. For one day, life doesn't feel quite so hard. For one day, you remember what joy feels like. But then, Christmas ends. The feast is over. The leftovers are eaten. And you're back to the usual routine. Back to thin porridge and thinner soup. Back to being cold and hungry and tired. January and February are the worst months. The coldest. The darkest. The food stores are running low. Every family is rationing carefully now, trying to make the grain last until spring planting. Some families run out. They beg from neighbors. They eat things you wouldn't normally eat, tree bark ground into flour, old leather boiled until it's soft enough to chew. Some people starve. Not everyone makes it through winter. You wake up each morning in February wondering if this will be the day you run out of food. You count the grain sacks. Calculate how much is left. Divide by the number of days until planting. The math is terrifying. You might not make it. Your wife suggests skipping the midday meal. Just porridge in the morning. Thin soup at night. Nothing in between. You agree? What choice do you have? The children cry from hunger. Their bellies are distended, their limbs thin as sticks. You try to distract them with tasks, with stories, with anything to keep their minds off the gnawing emptiness. The village becomes quieter in these months. People conserve energy. Moving burns calories you don't have. You sit by the fire as much as possible, trying to stay warm, trying not to think about food. Your thoughts become sluggish. Hunger does that. Makes it hard to think clearly. An old man in the village dies. Not from illness. Just from cold and hunger. His body simply gave up. He went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. His family found him in the morning, stiff and cold. The ground is too frozen to dig a grave, so his body is wrapped and left in a shed until the thaw comes. This happens sometimes in late winter. You attend a brief funeral service. The priest says prayers. Everyone stands in the cold church, breath-foughting, trying not to think about their own mortality. Because it could be any of you next. You're all so weak. So hungry. So worn down by months of deprivation. But you survive. Somehow, you survive. The grain lasts just long enough. By the time the last handful is gone, spring is beginning to arrive. The change is subtle at first. The sun, when it appears through the gray clouds, feels infinitesimally warmer on your face. The days are noticeably longer. Darkness comes a few minutes later each evening. The snow, compacted and dirty from months of trampling, begins to show signs of melting. Small patches of bare earth appear, where the sun hits most directly. March arrives. The worst is over. You've made it through another winter. Relief floods through you, but it's a tired relief. You're exhausted. Depleted. Your body is weak from months of inadequate food and constant cold. But you're alive. Your family is alive. That's what matters. The snow melts in earnest now. Water runs everywhere. The stream overflows its banks, flooding the low areas. The village becomes a maze of mud and standing water. Your shoes, leather wrapped around your feet with cloth bindings, are constantly soaked. Your feet develop sores from the constant wetness. But this is normal. Everyone's feet are a mess in spring. The mud is everywhere. Deep, sticky, sucking mud. It's exhausting to walk through. Each step requires effort as the mud tries to pull your shoes off. You track it into the hut, onto the dirt floor. Everything is damp and muddy and smells of wet earth. But mud means thaw, and thaw means planting season is coming. The village comes alive with activity. There's urgency now. Seeds must go into the ground at the right time. Too early, and a late frost kills them. Too late, and they won't mature before next winter. Timing is everything. The fields need plowing. The ground, frozen for months, has thawed enough to work. It's heavy, wet soil. Hard to plow. The oxen struggle, their hooves sinking deep in the mud. You walk beside them, guiding them, encouraging them. Your own feet sink with each step. Your legs ache from pulling them free over and over. The plow blade bites into the earth, turning it over. The soil is dark and rich, smelling of decay and potential. This is good soil. It's been rested all winter, fed by rain and snow. Now it's ready to produce again. You plow for days, back and forth across the fields, creating furrows, long straight lines where seeds will go. Your back aches constantly. The cold, wet conditions make everything harder. But you keep going. This work must be done. Behind the plowers come the seeders, walking the furrows, reaching into bags of seed, scattering handfuls in a practiced motion. Not too thick, that wastes seed. Not too sparse, that wastes land. Just right. They've been doing this since childhood. They know exactly how much to scatter. Barley goes in first. It's hardier, can tolerate colder conditions. Then oats. Then peas. Each seed is precious. Represents potential food for next winter. You watch them being scattered and pray, actually pray, that they'll grow, that the weather will cooperate, that pests won't destroy them, that they'll produce enough to keep your family alive. Children follow behind the seeders, gently covering seeds with soil, using their feet to tamp it down. Even the smallest children help. A 5-year-old can cover seeds, can make herself useful. Everyone works during planting. There are no exceptions. The work continues from dawn to dusk. You're exhausted every night. Fall into bed too tired to even eat much. Wake before dawn and do it again. Day after day, until all the fields are planted. And then you wait. Wait for the seeds to germinate, to send up tiny green shoots, to prove that life continues, that the cycle hasn't broken. Days pass. You check the fields constantly, watching, waiting, and then, finally, you see it. Tiny green shoots pushing up through the dark soil. The seeds are sprouting, growing. Life is returning. Relief washes over you. The planting was successful. Now you just have to tend these growing plants. Keep them alive through spring and summer. Protect them from pests and weather. Bring them to harvest. It's months of work ahead, but at least there's hope now. At least something is growing. Spring warms gradually. The brutal cold of winter fades. Mornings are still chilly, but afternoons can be almost pleasant. The sun has real warmth to it now. You work in the fields without quite so many layers of clothing. Your body starts to fall along with the earth. Food improves. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Wild plants start appearing. Nettles in the shady areas near the forest. You gather them carefully. They sting bare skin and bring them home. Your wife boils them into a soup. The taste is bitter and green, but it's fresh food. Real nutrients. Not just grain. Your body craves it desperately. Dandelion greens appear in the fields and along paths. You pick them, eat them raw sometimes. They're bitter, but they're food. They're free. Every bit helps stretch the remaining grain stores. The chickens start laying more regularly. Winter was hard on them too. They barely laid at all, huddled in their shelter, trying to stay warm. But now, with warmer weather and more daylight, they're productive again. You collect eggs with gratitude. An egg or two every few days. Protein. Rich, nourishing food. Your wife cooks the eggs carefully, breaks them into the pottage to make it richer, or scrambles them in a pan over the fire with a bit of wild onion. The children's faces brighten when there are eggs. They eat eagerly, hungrily, grateful for this treat. The garden plot needs attention. You turn the soil, breaking up the clumps, working in some of the composted material from the midden heap. The soil is rich and dark, ready to grow things. Planting the garden is your wife's domain. She knows what goes where. Onions here, cabbages there, beans climbing up stakes, peas in rows, and turnips. Always turnips. Multiple varieties if possible. Turnips that will mature at different times, providing food from summer through the following spring. She plants herbs too. Practical herbs. Parsley, thyme, sage. They flavor the endless pottages and soups, make eating the same things day after day slightly more bearable. She plants them near the door of the hut where she can grab a handful easily when cooking. Spring rains come, sometimes gentle, sometimes torrential. The newly planted seeds need water and they get plenty. Too much even. Some fields flood. Seeds wash away. You watch helplessly as rain pounds down, hoping it won't destroy everything you've planted. But most of the seeds survive. The fields turn green as the young plants grow. Barley shoots reaching toward the sky. Oats spreading their leaves. Peas climbing, sending out tendrils that grasp at anything nearby. It's beautiful in a way. All this growth. All this potential. You eat constantly. Weeds grow faster than crops, it seems. They compete for water and nutrients. They must be removed. So you spend hours kneeling in the muddy fields, pulling weeds, one at a time, handful by handful. Your knees ache. Your back protests. But the work must be done. The sun grows stronger. Spring slides into early summer. The days lengthen. You work longer hours, taking advantage of the light, from before dawn until after dusk. There's always something that needs doing. The growing plants need tending, checking for pests, removing diseased plants before illness spreads, making sure the irrigation channels are clear so water reaches all parts of the field. Endless small tasks that add up to exhausting days. But there's a satisfaction to it. Watching things grow. Seeing the results of your labor. The plants are getting taller, stronger, healthier. They represent survival. They represent making it through another year. Your body adapts to the work. The muscles that atrophy during winter rebuild. You're still thin. Peasants are always thin, but you're stronger than you were in February. Regular food, even inadequate food, makes a difference. The village is more social in spring and early summer. People have energy again. They talk while working, share news, gossip about who's marrying whom, who's pregnant, who had an argument with their neighbor. These small stories are the entertainment of village life. A wedding is planned for June. 2 families have negotiated a marriage between their children. The whole village will attend. There will be a feast, modest by noble standards, but lavish by peasant standards. Everyone looks forward to it. A break from routine. Extra food. Music and celebration. The weather continues to warm. By May, it's genuinely warm during the day. Hot even. You sweat while working. Drink more water. The stream is flowing strong, fed by spring rains and snowmelt from distant hills. The water is cold and clear. You drink deeply, grateful. The garden begins producing. First, the early vegetables. Radishes. Young onions. lettuce leaves. Not much, but enough to supplement meals. Fresh food tastes incredible after months of eating stored grain and wrinkled turnips. Your wife picks the vegetables carefully, taking only what's needed, leaving the rest to grow. She makes salads, just greens with a bit of vinegar if you have any, or lemon if you can trade for it. The sourness makes your mouth water. The fresh crispness is a revelation after winter's soft, mushy foods. Early summer brings longer twilights. After the sun sets, there's still light for an hour or more. You sit outside these evenings too tired to do much. The children play. Your wife spins wool, her hands never idle. You might weave a basket or repair a tool. Or just sit and rest, watching the day fade. These moments are as close to peace as peasant life gets. The air is warm. Your belly has at least something in it. The work is hard but manageable. There's no immediate crisis. For a few weeks in a daily life of a medieval peasant. Life in the village isn't just work, though work dominates everything. There's also community. Relationships. The complicated web of connections that bind everyone together. You know everyone in the village. You've known them your entire life. You played with them as children. Worked alongside them as adults. You'll likely die in the same village where they'll die. Robert, your neighbor, is also your second cousin. His wife is your wife's sister. This kind of intermarriage is common. The village is small, and most people marry someone from the same village or a nearby one. You're all related in various ways, creating a tight network of family bonds. This closeness has advantages and disadvantages. When you're sick, neighbors help. When your roof needs repairs, others assist. When food runs short, people share. There's a sense of mutual obligation. You help others because you'll need their help someday. But privacy doesn't exist. Everyone knows everything about everyone. If you have an argument with your wife, the whole village knows by evening. If your daughter sneaks off to meet a boy, everyone knows before you do. If you're struggling financially, everyone knows. There are no secrets in a village of 100 people. Gossip is the main form of entertainment. During breaks from work, sitting outside the communal oven, walking to and from the fields, these are times for talking. Who's marrying whom? Who's pregnant? Who had a fight? Who's falling behind on their obligations to the Lord? The same stories circulated and recirculated, examined from every angle. The village has its social structure. The Lord is at the top, obviously. He owns everything. Below him are a few free peasants who own their land and aren't bound as serfs. They're not wealthy, but they have more freedom and status than you do. Then there are peasants like you, serfs, the majority. And at the bottom are the cottagers, people with almost no land, who survive by working for others. Status matters. Small differences in status matter enormously when everyone is poor. Having 3 chickens instead of 2. Having a slightly larger hut. Having a son who's healthy and strong. These things affect how others see you. The village also has its roles. There's the reeve, chosen by the Lord to oversee the village and report back to the manor. Being reeve is both an honor and a burden. You have authority, but you're also responsible for collecting rents and reporting anyone who violates rules. No one likes the reeve, but everyone respects the position. There's the village smith, who's essential. He repairs tools, shoes horses, makes nails. He's one of the few people with a specialized skill and he's valued accordingly. His position is hereditary. His son will be a smith too. There's the miller, who runs the Lord's mill. Everyone must use his mill to grind grain, paying a fee. He's suspected of cheating, taking more than his due, but there's no alternative. You use his mill because you have to. There's the alewife, a woman who brews ale and sells it. Ale is essential, safer than water, providing calories. The alewife is a central figure in village life, her hut a gathering place. And there's the priest. He's educated, literate, set apart from the rest of you. He's supposed to provide spiritual guidance, but mostly he just demands tithes and judges you for your sins. Still, he's necessary. He performs baptisms, marriages, funerals. He's your connection to God and the church. Disputes are common. Arguments over boundary lines between fields. Accusations of theft. Conflicts over who used the communal oven too long. These disputes are brought before the Lord's manorial court, held monthly. You've been to court several times, once when your pig damaged someone's crops, once when you accused another peasant of stealing firewood from your pile. The court is held in the manor hall. The Lord or his steward presides. Evidence is presented. Witnesses testify. Judgment is rendered. Usually, this means a fine. Money you don't have, so you pay in labor or goods. Justice in medieval England is about maintaining order and collecting fees, not about fairness. Crimes happen occasionally. Theft, usually. Stealing food, tools, animals. Punishments are harsh. Thieves might be whipped publicly, placed in the stocks, or branded. For serious crimes, hanging. You witnessed a hanging once, a man from a neighboring village who'd stolen repeatedly. The whole village was required to watch. You remember the man's face, his fear, the way his body jerked and twitched. You had nightmares for weeks. But most conflict is smaller, pettier. Insults, slights, long simmering resentments that occasionally flare up. You've had arguments with neighbors over trivial things, a chicken that wandered into their garden, a comment you made that was taken the wrong way. These conflicts are part of village life. You argue, you reconcile, you move on. Because you have to live together. There's nowhere else to go. Marriage is both personal and communal. When your son reaches marriageable age, maybe 15 or 16, you'll negotiate with another family. Marriage is partly about love, but mostly about economics and alliances. Who has land? Who has resources? Who has healthy children? These factors matter more than affection. The marriage itself will be a village event. Everyone will attend. There will be a church ceremony, followed by a feast. The whole village will celebrate because a marriage strengthens the community, creates new bonds. Death is also communal. When someone dies, the whole village participates in the funeral. The body is prepared, wrapped in a shroud. The priest says prayers. The body is buried in the churchyard. Everyone attends, not just because it's respectful, but because death is a reminder of everyone's mortality. It could be you next. It probably will be you eventually. Children are raised communally in some ways. Your children play with other children, roaming the village in packs. Older children watch younger ones. Everyone corrects everyone else's children. You discipline neighbor children who misbehave, and neighbors discipline yours. It's understood that raising children is everyone's responsibility. Festivals break up the monotony. Christmas, Easter, Lammas Harvest Festival, May Day, All Saints' Day. These are times when normal work stops and the village celebrates together. There's extra food, ale, music, dancing. These festivals are religious in origin, but social in practice. They're relief valves, allowing peasants to blow off steam accumulated from months of hard labor. You look forward to festivals. Everyone does. They're the high points of the year, the times when life feels less grinding, less desperate. For one day, you're not just a peasant scraping by. You're part of a community, celebrating together, sharing joy instead of just sharing labor. But the festivals end. The music stops. The extra food is eaten, and you return to the usual routine. Work, eat, sleep. Work, eat, sleep. The same cycle, endlessly repeating. The village is your entire world. These people, difficult, annoying, familiar people, are your world. You'll never leave. They'll never leave. You're bound together by geography, by feudalism, by necessity. You don't particularly like everyone, but they're your community. And in the medieval world, community is survival. You wake one morning feeling strange. Your head aches. Your body feels hot. You're sweating, despite the cold. You try to get up, but dizziness overwhelms you. You collapse back onto the bed. Your wife notices immediately. She touches your forehead. You're burning with fever. She looks worried. Fever is dangerous. Fever kills. She makes you stay in bed. This is unusual. Peasants don't stay in bed unless they're seriously ill or dying. There's too much work to do. But you're too weak to protest. Your body won't obey. The fever has you in its grip. The day passes in a haze. You drift in and out of consciousness. Your wife brings you water, which you sip weakly. She makes a broth, tries to get you to eat, but you can't. Your stomach rebels. You vomit into a bowl. Your children stare at you with frightened eyes. They've seen people die from fever. Everyone has. They're wondering if you'll die too. Your wife sends your son to fetch the priest. Not because the priest can cure you, he can't, but because if you're dying, you need last rites. You need your soul prepared for God. The priest comes. He's an older man, thin, with watery eyes. He prays over you in Latin. You don't understand the words, but the rhythm is soothing. He anoints you with oil, prepares you for death. But you don't die. Not this time. After 3 days, the fever breaks. You wake one morning drenched in sweat, weak as a kitten, but clear-headed. The fever is gone. Your wife helps you sit up, feeds you thin porridge. You eat slowly, your stomach still uncertain. But you keep the food down. You're going to survive. Recovery takes weeks. You're too weak to work at first. This is a problem. The Lord still expects His labor. Your wife does what she can, but there's work she can't do, heavy plowing, chopping wood. Neighbors help some, but they have their own work. You fall behind on obligations. The steward makes note of it. You'll owe extra labor later to make up for it. Slowly, strength returns. You're able to walk around the hut, then outside, then to the fields. You're thinner, weaker than before, but functional. You return to work, though everything is harder now. Your body hasn't fully recovered. Illness is a constant threat. Fevers, coughs, stomach ailments. Some you recover from. Some kill you. There's no way to predict. No doctors exist in any modern sense. The nearest thing is the wise woman in the next village who knows herbs and can set broken bones. But even she can't cure serious illness. Injury is also common. Accidents happen constantly when you're working with sharp tools, heavy objects, unpredictable animals. A man in the village cut his foot badly with an axe last month. The wound festered. His foot swelled, turned black. He died in agony 2 weeks later. Blood poisoning, though no one calls it that. They just know that sometimes cuts kill you. You've had your share of injuries. A badly sprained ankle that never quite healed right. You still limp slightly. A deep cut on your hand from a sickle that left a thick scar. Broken ribs from being kicked by an ox. Each injury weakened you slightly, aged you a little more. Dental problems plague everyone. By 30, you've lost 3 teeth. they just rotted and fell out. The gritty bread wears down the enamel. Lack of proper nutrition weakens them. Sometimes they abscess, painful infections that swell your jaw, give you fever. You know a man who died from an abscessed tooth, the infection spreading to his brain. Eyesight problems are common too. Many older peasants are half-blind. No glasses exist. If your eyes fail, you just live with blurred vision. You struggle to do fine work. You rely on others to help. Childbirth is dangerous for women. Your wife has survived 4 births, but many women don't. Childbirth is one of the leading causes of death for women. Bleeding, infection, complications, so many things can go wrong. The wise woman attends births, but her knowledge is limited. Some women labor for days before finally dying, exhausted. Others hemorrhage and bleed out within hours. The babies often die too, stillborn or dying within days of birth. Your wife is pregnant again. She hasn't told you yet, but you suspect. You notice the changes in her body, her mood. You're worried. Each pregnancy is a risk. She could die. The baby could die. Both could die. But children are necessary. They're labor. They're your future security. When you're old and can't work, your children will support you if they survive, if they don't leave, if they're able. Life is fragile. This is the overwhelming reality of medieval peasant existence. Any day could be your last. A fever. An accident. An injury that festers. Childbirth. Starvation if the harvest fails. Violence if raiders come. Old age, though few peasants live long enough to die of old age. Most die in their 30s or 40s, worn out by labor and hardship. You've lost so many people. Your parents, both dead before they reached 50. Your older brother, dead from fever at 16. 2 of your own children. Countless neighbors, friends, acquaintances. Death is everywhere, constant, unavoidable. But you keep going. Because what else is there? You wake up. You work. You try to survive one more day. And then another day. And another. Until eventually your luck runs out, and you don't survive. But until then, you persist. This persistence is perhaps the defining quality of peasant life. Not happiness. Not contentment. Just persistence. Endurance. The stubborn refusal to give up even when everything is hard and painful and probably pointless. You work your fields knowing a bad harvest could kill you. You have children knowing half might die. You repair your hut knowing it will just decay again. You do all this knowing that your life probably won't improve, that your children's lives probably won't improve, that this is just how things are and always will be. But you do it anyway. Because humans are remarkably stubborn. Because hope, however faint, persists. Because giving up means certain death, while trying means maybe, possibly, surviving a little longer. So you endure. You persist. You survive, one day at a time, in a world that offers no guarantees and few comforts, but that is, nevertheless, the only world you have. Years pass. Many years. You're older now. Much older. In your 50s, though you're not certain. No one keeps track precisely. What matters is that you're old by peasant standards. Most people you grew up with are dead. You've outlived the average. You're one of the lucky ones, if you can call it luck. Your body is failing. The decades of hard labor have destroyed it. Your back is permanently bent. Your hands are gnarled with arthritis. Your knees barely work. Walking is painful. Working is agony. But you still work, because what else would you do? Your children are grown. Your son farms his own strips now, ones that were allocated to him when he married. Your daughter married a man from a neighboring village and moved there. You have grandchildren, though you don't see them often. Travel is difficult, and there's always work. Your wife died 3 years ago. Childbirth, finally. The 8th pregnancy. She was 42, too old to be having babies safely, but babies come when they come. She labored for 2 days before she died. The baby died too. You buried them together in the churchyard. Since then, you've lived alone. Your daughter-in-law brings you food sometimes. Your son checks on you. But mostly, you're alone. The hut feels empty without your wife's presence. The silence is oppressive. You're tired. So deeply tired. Not just physically, though your body screams with pain constantly, but tired of life. Tired of struggling. Tired of surviving. What's the point? Every day is the same. Wake, work, eat, sleep. Why continue? But you do continue. Partly from habit. Partly because giving up isn't really an option. You just keep going because that's what you've always done. One autumn morning, you don't know which day, they all blend together. You wake up feeling worse than usual. Your chest hurts. Breathing is difficult. You're feverish again, like that time years ago. But you're older now. Weaker. Your body can't fight like it used to. You try to get up and can't. Your legs won't support you. You collapse back onto the bed. This is it, you think. This is how it ends. Your son comes to check on you. He sees immediately that something is wrong. He sends for the priest. The priest comes, performs the last rites. You receive them with a strange sense of relief. Finally, it's over. You drift in and out. Time becomes meaningless. Sometimes it's day, sometimes night. People come and go. Your son, your daughter, who's traveled from the neighboring village despite the difficulty. Neighbors you've known your whole life. They sit with you. No one should die alone. You think about your life. What did you accomplish? You survived. You raised children who survived. You worked the land, contributed to the harvests that fed the village. You were part of the community. That's something, isn't it? That has to be enough. Because there was nothing else. No grand adventures. No great achievements. Just a life of labor and endurance. Just survival in a world that made survival difficult. Just existing in your small corner of medieval England, doing what peasants have always done. You think about your wife. You'll see her soon, you hope. If the priest is right about heaven. If there really is something after this. You hope so. You hope all this suffering had purpose. That there's reward waiting. But you don't know. No one knows. Your breathing becomes more labored. Each breath is a struggle. You're drowning, slowly, as fluid fills your lungs. But you're not afraid. Or maybe you're too tired to be afraid. Fear requires energy, and you have none left. The end comes quietly. One breath. Then another. Then a longer pause. Then nothing. Your son is holding your hand. He feels the moment you go. The slight relaxation of your body. The absence where presence used to be. They prepare your body. Wash it. Wrap it in a shroud. There's no elaborate funeral. You're a peasant. You get what peasants get, a simple burial in the churchyard. The priest says prayers. Your children cry. Neighbors attend because that's what neighbors do. They lower you into the earth. The same earth you worked your entire life. The dirt that gave you food and now receives your body. It seems fitting somehow. You came from the land. You worked the land. You return to the land. A simple wooden cross marks your grave. Your name carved roughly into it. The cross will last a few decades, maybe. Then it will rot and fall. Your grave will be forgotten. Future generations won't know you existed. Won't know you struggled and survived and endured. You'll be completely erased from history, as if you never were. But for a brief moment, 50-something years, you existed. You were real. You felt pain and cold and hunger. You felt love for your wife and children. You felt satisfaction after a good harvest. You felt the warmth of the fire on winter nights. You felt the rare pleasure of a full belly. You were alive. You were human. And that has to mean something. Even if no one remembers. Even if your life left no mark on history. You existed. You lived. In a hard world, in a difficult time, you survived as long as you could. And then you died, like everyone dies. The village continues without you. Your son farms your strips now. Life goes on. Other peasants wake before dawn, work the fields, eat their thin meals, collapse into bed exhausted. The cycle continues. The seasons turn. Planting and harvest. Winter and summer. Birth and death. Nothing changes. Everything changes. Individual lives end, but peasant life continues, generation after generation, century after century. The same struggles. The same endurance. The same stubborn persistence in the face of hardship. This was your life. This is the life of medieval peasants everywhere. Not glorious. Not memorable. Just human life at its most basic: survival, family, community, labor, and eventually death. And now, it's over. Your story is done. But the larger story, the story of peasant life, of human endurance, that continues. It always has. It always will. Rest now. The work is finished. The fields will be plowed by other hands. The harvest will be brought in by others. Your place in the village will be filled. But you did your part. You survived. You endured. You were here. And that's enough. This is the history they don't teach. The history of people who left no records. Who built no monuments. Who accomplished nothing that history books care about. Just people who lived and worked and died in obscurity. Medieval peasants numbered in the millions across Europe. Each one was a person with thoughts, feelings, hopes, fears. Each one struggled through days like the ones we've described. Got up in cold darkness. Worked until exhausted. Ate inadequate food. Suffered illness and injury. Watched children die. Endured and persisted and survived, or didn't survive. Their lives were incredibly hard by modern standards. No modern person could endure what medieval peasants endured daily. The constant hunger. The unrelenting physical labor. The lack of medical care. The absence of basic comforts we take for granted: warmth, adequate food, clean water, soft beds, pain relief. And yet they persisted. Generations of them. Centuries of them. Living these grinding lives because they had no choice, because this was simply how life was. They didn't know anything different was possible. They couldn't imagine a world where machines did the plowing, where food was abundant, where medicine could cure infections, where houses stayed warm in winter. They just lived in the world they had. Made the best of it. Found small joys where they could: a good harvest, a wedding feast, children's laughter, the warmth of fire on a cold night. These small pleasures sustained them through the hardships. And their labor, their endurance, their persistence, it mattered. They fed medieval society. Every knight, every priest, every noble, every month, all were supported by peasant labor. Peasants grew the food, paid the taxes, did the work that made medieval civilization possible. Without them, the cathedrals wouldn't have been built. The universities wouldn't have functioned. the armies wouldn't have marched. All of medieval European history rests on the foundation of peasant labor. Invisible labor. Unrecorded labor. But essential labor nonetheless. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, spare a thought for them. For the millions of medieval peasants who lived lives of quiet desperation and stubborn endurance. Who got up every morning and worked their fields. Who loved their families. Who survived as long as they could in a world that made survival difficult. They're forgotten now. History moved on. The world changed. Feudalism ended. Peasants became farmers, then industrial workers, then office workers. The medieval world became the modern world. But for centuries, this was how most humans lived. In small villages. Working the land. Struggling to survive. Their lives weren't wasted. They weren't meaningless. They were just ordinary. Human life at its most fundamental. And there's something profound in that ordinariness. Something worth remembering, even if, especially if, it's boring. Because boring history is still history. Ordinary lives are still lives. And the millions of forgotten people who lived them deserve to be remembered, even if we only remember them collectively as peasants without names or individual stories. This was their world. This was their life. And now you know what it was like. The cold mornings, the hard work, the thin meals, the constant exhaustion, the brief joys, the long struggles, the eventual end. If you're still awake, you probably shouldn't be. But if you are, thank you for listening to this story. The story of people who had no stories, who lived and died in obscurity, who were forgotten by history, but who were nonetheless real. Real people. Real lives. Real struggles. Real humanity in all its ordinary, enduring, persistent glory. Sleep well. And be grateful you don't have to wake up before dawn tomorrow to plow a frozen field with borrowed oxen. Be grateful for warmth and food and comfort and all the things medieval peasants never had. They would have envied you beyond measure. You live in the world they couldn't imagine. A world of abundance and ease and possibility. A world built in part on the foundation of their labor. Remember them. Honor them by remembering. And sleep peacefully in a way they rarely could. Good night. Thanks for watching this journey through medieval peasant life. If you made it all the way through ours, I'm genuinely impressed. Or you're in a very deep sleep right now, which was the goal. If you'd like more boring history designed specifically for sleep, consider subscribing. I have more medieval content coming. Monks, knights, castle life, and more everyday historical experiences told in the same slow, detailed, sleep-inducing style. Leave a comment about what historical period you'd like to fall asleep to next. Ancient Rome? Victorian England? The American frontier? The more mundane and repetitive, the better. Sleep well. Dream of nothing. Or maybe dream of turnips. Medieval peasants certainly did.